Hi everyone, it's Nicole here from Mama Elephant with a Summer Splash Elephant Scene card to share with you. I'm combining the new Summer Splash images with some Marine Friends images from the April 2019 release, as well as the Making Waves cover, Hello Friend Wishes stamp set, and Hello Friend Creative Cuts dies. All of these projects combined together make for a fantastic scene card. I'm a huge fan of mixing and matching whenever possible. I've die cut the Making Waves cover from some smooth white cardstock, and I'm masking off the top and the sides using a little post-it tape. This is instantly going to add a nice border all the way around without having to mat it on another color, which would be impossible since this cover die is A2 sized, so it gives the illusion of being matted without that extra layer. Then I'm going to apply Lawn Fawn Fish Tank and Deep Sea dye inks with the life-changing ink blending brushes. This is going to give a beautiful smooth application. I've started with the Fish Tank ink, and then I'm going to use some additional post-it tape to add Deep Sea, especially to some of the edges. It's going to end up being a lot more deep sea than Fish Tank, but that lighter blue will show through in places, which is what I was going for. I'm going to move this down each layer and add the color. I will have to go in a little bit later and pull a little additional color down just a tiny bit further, as my sandy beach borders along the bottom edge didn't go up quite as high as I thought they would when I planned out my card. We're even going to apply a little more deep sea ink along that top edge and down the sides. I'm going to remove the post-it tape masks, and you can see how it instantly frames up that beautiful Making Waves background. Now we're going to take some landscape trio dies and die cut a couple of borders from smooth white cardstock to use along the bottom edge as the sandy beach. Once I have these die cut, I'm going to go ahead and ink these up with Lawn Fawn Dough ink. I didn't worry too much about the width of these borders. I can trim them down after I get them placed the way I want. I almost like leaving them a little bit longer to begin with. That way I can kind of move them around and play with them a little bit to make sure that I get those layered sandy hills just so on the bottom of my card. This dough colored ink is perfect for sand. I really love with the life-changing brushes that you can apply any ink you have, not just a specialty ink like Distress inks or Distress Oxide. The color application is so smooth that you can use any dye ink that you have and really get fantastic results, even on a basic smooth white cardstock like I'm using for my card today. Next, I'm going to take those borders and layer those along the bottom edge of my Making Waves cover. None of these layers are popped up with foam adhesive. That's going to help keep the dimension of the card down just a little bit, because we're going to be adhering some of the Summer Splash images and critters with foam adhesive for our scene to give it a little more dimension. Once I have those borders in place, I'm going to flip this over, take some scissors, and trim that up. Along the bottom edge of the card, I'm going to stamp my sentiment. We're using a combination of sentiments for this design, including a die cut sentiment that's going to go along the top and a stamped sentiment along the bottom edge. I stamped "I just wanted to say hello" to help brighten up your day from the Hello Friend Wishes stamp set. This works really well with the Hello Friend Creative Cuts die that we'll be using along the top edge of the design. I also think this particular sentiment works so nicely with the images I'm using. However, you can mix and match and use many different sentiments with these images. I've stamped the majority of the images I think I want to use for my scene on a scrap of smooth white cardstock. I'm coloring in my images with Copic markers. The colors of markers I'm using are listed across the bottom of the screen. If at any time you're wondering exactly which colors I'm using, you can find that information there. I'm using warm gray 3, 6, and 7 for the elephant, with a little R20 for the cheeks and R00 for the insides of the ears. We'll add a little dot detail here and there to give the elephants more character. It's one of my favorite ways to add additional texture and interest to elephants. Let's go ahead and color in all of the elephants first before we move on to the rest of the images. There are multiple elephant images in the Summer Splash stamp set. I am using 3 of the 5. We've got the cute little elephant floating in the inner tube in the water, one with an inner tube around his waist getting ready to get in, and then our cute little beach babe sitting there with the sand castles. Just like I did with the first elephant, I'm going to blend these 3 colors together, add some dot detail texture, and then add that light soft pink to the insides of the ears, blending a little warm gray 3 over the top, and then a little R20 for the cheeks. There's not quite as much cheek area shown on this particular elephant since she's got her sunglasses on, and that would cover up the majority of that area. We're going to color in our final elephant really quick and then move on to anything in our card that is red. That's going to include the bandana around the elephant's head that's sitting, her bathing suit, the crab, and one of the stripes on the beach ball. Whenever possible, I like to try to color everything that's going to be one certain color or color combination at one time so I'm not constantly switching back and forth. Sometimes you don't always have a definite plan, and so you have to switch back and forth a little bit more. But if there is any way not to do that, I always try to color everything that I know I want, in this instance red, all at one time. The red I knew already was really going to pop against the blue of the water and then the light tan of the sandy beach. We're going to keep blending these colors together until we get exactly the seamless blend that I want for this particular color combination. These are such fun images to color, and they're going to work really nicely with the other new beach-themed stamp set for May 2019 called Beach Chickies. I didn't use that today, but I will have a new video with that coming up soon. And it also works great with last month's Marine Friends stamp set in particular. So go through your Mama Elephant stamp sets and see if you can mix and match any of the previously released images with these new images from the latest release. Mixing and matching is always my favorite way to create a card. We're going to finish off the stripes on the beach ball with an orange color combination with YR04 and 09, yellow with Y08 and Y19, pink with RV55 and 66, and blue with B14 and B16. For one of the inner tubes, we're going to use the green color combination and the blue color combination. Green is YG21, 25, and 17, and blue is B14 and 16. I love adding lots of color here, and I definitely went with rainbow color for all the accessories in this card. Our last inner tube is going to be a pink and purple color combination. I'm going to color in the area on the goggles and the sunglasses with cool gray markers in cool gray 5 and 8. I'll even use a little colorless blender to add some highlights to those glasses. The outline on the sunglasses is going to be colored with B14 and 16. And I even added a polka dot pattern to the swimsuit with a white pin. A white pin is one of my favorite tools for adding highlights, texture, all kinds of fun little interest to colored images. We're going to add highlights to the beach ball, to the sunglasses, the bandana in her hair, the cheeks on all of the critters, and things like that. RB 55 and 66 is going to be the pink color combination for the pink stripes on the inner tube. For the purple stripes, I'm going to actually use blue colors. The numbers are B63 and 66, but these are definitely more on the purple spectrum and one of my favorite color combinations for coloring purple. I'm going to add highlights to both of my inner tubes as well with a kind of dot and dash detail that I really like. We're going to outline the goggles on this elephant with the pink colors and purple. Then I'm going to go in and add some highlights to those as well. The sandcastle pieces, which one of them is shown here, I'll stamp the other one in a minute when I realized I probably needed a few more images to round out my scene and to really fill it in. The colors for the sandcastle are E30, 31, and 55 with Y08 for the windows on the castle. I know that there really wouldn't be a light on in the castle, but it does help kind of show off the window areas on this design. We'll use B14 and 16 for the flag and then die cut all of these images with the coordinating Summer Splash Creative Cuts dies. I'm going to lay out my images now to see what else I possibly could need that will help round out my card. I'm also going to adhere some of my images to the design with foam adhesive. That's going to include the little girl wearing the bathing suit with the sunglasses down along the bottom edge, both pieces of the sandcastle, the elephant that's getting in the water with the inner tube around his waist, and the beach ball. Everything else is going to be adhered directly to the card base. That's going to be the crab, the fish that we eventually stamp and color and place in the water, and also the turtle, as well as the remaining elephant in the inner tube. That's because we can tuck parts of those animals underneath each of these making waves layers if we don't pop them up with foam adhesive. The dimension also really helps give a detailed scene that has lots of depth and dimension. I'm laying out the Hello Friend Creative Cuts die to make sure that I leave space for that sentiment along the top edge of the card. If you would rather fill that in with additional critters or other imagery, you could definitely do that and just leave the stamped sentiment along the bottom edge. You don't have to use both unless you really like that look like I do. I'm going to go ahead and adhere this panel then to a white top fold card base. The Making Waves cover does die cut those little sections where the waves are, so you will see a background color behind this. If you want to use a contrasting color or maybe even another color of blue cardstock to reinforce that beach feel, you can do that. I left mine white. I liked the look of it, and I think it ties in nicely to the white outline on the die cut images in this card design. While I work on coloring the remaining images for my card, I want my glossy accents to start drying. I'm going to apply that to the sunglasses, the inner tubes, and I think that might be it for this particular, and the beach ball for this card. So we'll put the glossy accents in place and then we'll start working on coloring in the rest of the images. I like to lay just a nice thin little layer there over my image, and it's going to give it a glossy raised finish, which is so perfect for these particular elements on the card. I have a fine tip applicator on my glossy accents, which makes it easy to really draw that in to some tight areas. Now we're going to stamp some remaining images to color and die cut to fill in the card. That's going to include multiple fish, a turtle from the Marine Friends stamp set, and then a pigeon and the rest of the sandcastle from the Summer Splash stamp set. I decided I could go ahead and stamp a little bit more sandcastle imagery as well as the cute little bird, and it's really going to round everything out nicely. YR 31, 24, and 27 were used for the fish. I stamped these more than once so that I could use multiple fish on my card design. This is another example of going back in and adding dot detail, which is super great for the fish because it kind of gives the illusion of gills. The sandcastle little piece there was colored with the 30, 31, and 55, like the larger sandcastle. And then we're going to color in our turtle with YG 93, 95, and 97. Some nice darker greens. I wanted something a little different than the limey green that we used on the inner tube that the elephant is floating in. We'll take some light warm grays for our bird. Very, very quick. I don't want to use too much of that color. And then we'll die cut all these images. I'm going to quickly lay out my images to make sure that I like the layout before I commit to gluing them in place with a liquid adhesive. We're going to have some of the fish diving down into the waves, some poking their heads up, and others just floating along those wave borders. I love how seamlessly different images from different stamp sets work together to create a cohesive scene design. We've popped the bird and the sandcastle piece up with foam adhesive along the bottom edge of the card. Then we simply just need to figure out where everything else is going to go and glue it down in place. I played around with the placement quite a lot, trying to figure out what I liked best for this card. I eventually ended up moving the turtle up a little bit and keeping a couple fish over on the left side and then 2 fish over on the right along with the turtle. I'm going to add some liquid adhesive and place all of these pieces where I want them to go. Once I have my images glued in place, I again will take my white gel pen and add detail with highlights, little dots for the turtle shell cover, things like that to really finish it off nicely. I'm also going to take a black gel pen and add detail to the eyes, not only on the elephants, but on the fish and the crab. I always like finishing off eyes with a black gel pen as it adds fantastic detail and draws your eye into that part of the cute critter's face. I even added some glossy accents to the turtle shell so that it would be kind of that glossy hard look as well. For the sand detail along the bottom edge, I took a combination of a white pen and also the Stardust glitter pen and added little dots here and there. I didn't go over the top, I just added a few in a few strategic places to give that illusion of sand. We are almost finished with this card design. I've die cut the Hello Friend Creative Cuts die from a sandwich of white cardstock attached to fun foam with stick-it adhesive. This is my favorite way to create a dimensional sticker scripty word on a card design. I want to go ahead and add some ink to that sentiment instead of leaving it white in order for it to blend into the background a little better. So I simply took some deep sea ink and applied it to the word before taking the word and adding it to my card. The dot on the eye is so teeny tiny, and I really find it kind of hard to use when you are adhering this to Fun Foam. I did think I would go ahead and use it, and then I opted to change my mind, and I'm actually going to take some Honeybee Stamps crystal clear acrylic hearts instead and add those as a fun little bubble to the card, including one that is the dot on the eye. So we'll use a small one as the dot on the eye. Then we're going to have 4 others scattered throughout the water portion of the card design. You could also use traditional clear drops or even create drops with Nuvo crystal drops or something like that if you wanted to and didn't have this particular product. I'm attaching all of these dimensional embellishments with Lawn Fawn glue tube ink. It does go on white, but it's going to dry clear and you won't even see it back behind these fun embellishments. The crystal katana makes it so easy to pick them up and place these pieces right where you want them to go because they're so small you don't have to get your fingers in the mess to position any of them. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this Summer Splash themed scene card featuring new and old stamps and dies from Mama Elephant. The supplies I used to create my card are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more videos featuring Mama Elephant stamps and dies that you might be interested in. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel so you never miss a video. Thank you guys so much for joining me today, and we'll catch you next time.